You're listening to NTParanormal After Dark. Nothing normal about it.
Hello. This is the NTParanormal After Dark podcast. And I've taken over. So, yeah, things are different today. I'm changing it up. I'm running things, and Brad has been relegated to the corner. We're going to be talking about werewolves, clinical lycanthropy, and the beast of Gévaudan, a were-creature that may have racked up over 100 confirmed kills during its time.
The beast of what?
Gévaudan.
Say it again?
No. Before we get into that, I've been told to mention a few things. One, our book, After what? After Dark Paranormal Investigations, is now available for purchase as an audiobook on, can you say Audible? Audible. You keep saying audible. And within a few weeks will be available on Amazon and iTunes as well. Second, we have started a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for our EEG ECG. So we don't normally take your money, but give us your money.
I think that's the camera you're looking for.
I hate you. I can't see. I'm supposed to read, but my eye doesn't work. Yeah, in the past we haven't accepted donations and we don't charge for our services, but a lot of people have expressed interest in donating for the EEG ECG machine.
And they've already started donating.
People have indeed been giving us money. Finally, we wanted to mention that our podcast is now available across multiple platforms for download. In addition to Facebook, YouTube, and iTunes, you can now find our podcast on Stitcher, Last.fm, Voxbox, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Now, I guess I'll let Brad talk or something.
Hi. Having fun?
No, I hate you.
You wanted to run the podcast.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
I wanted to make my own podcast, and you're like, well, if you're going to do that, then I'm going to make you run it, and then I'm going to heckle you and drink bourbon.
Yeah. You know what you forgot to mention?
He's getting drunk.
Our shirts.
We have new shirts. Well, Brad has new shirts. I stole one. So, if you'd like to buy merch to help us, investigate ghosties.
Yeah, and actually I was on Amazon a minute ago, and I figured out our audiobook's actually on Amazon right now, too. So it's totally available. And you can also get the audiobook on iTunes, which I think is pretty nifty.
I guess.
So what are we talking about today? Werewolves?
Lycanthropy.
Lichen stuff? No? Say stuff.
We're talking about medical lycanthropy and also historical lycanthropy.
So is there something different between medical lycanthropy and historical lycanthropy?
I don't know. A lot of people have posited that the beast in France actually was one of the first people to ever be afflicted with this, noticeably afflicted with this clinical lycanthropy thing. And he thought he was an actual monster when he was, slaughtering the villagers.
I saw with clinical lycanthropy is that since 1850, there are 13 absolute cases of clinical lycanthropy they're medically recognized. But overall, there's 56 case descriptions that actually where the people were diagnosed or
your ice is really loud.
I know. Basically, they said that they turned into they thought they turned into animals. But the big deal with lycanthropy is that it's commonly
and you
diagnosed.
Said something about wolf being the least.
Yeah, actually, out of all the lycanthrope claims, people turning into a dog or a wolf is actually the least common. Drunk cooking video? Maybe. I don't know. We have to do something about dinner after this.
We're not letting Brad run podcasts anymore, so. Ashton.
Brashton.
Whatever you like to call yourself.
But clinical lycanthropy, there's only 13 cases that are actually that are actually classified as lycanthropy. But
I mean, if I thought I was a werewolf once every month, I don't think I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go to the psychologist and have brain scans. I think I'd be like, I'm gonna keep that shit a secret.
Back the volume off, just a touch. There you go. That's probably good. I just noticed we were clipping pretty bad.
Sorry, I'm learning.
Yeah, but typically it gets put under like schizophrenia, things like that. But this in the study, this really cool group of psychologists got together, and they were what they did is they ran a whole bunch of tests using an EEG and brain scan in.
Or they use an fMRI where they can test where the brain functions.
Right, yeah, and it turned out that their brain actually functions different than people with schizophrenia. So it is actually a completely separate disease. But what they found out is when the people look in a mirror, they don't see it actually fits in closer to like bulimia and things like that.
So like body dysmorphia. And so when they look in a mirror, they see an animal or think they see an animal under their own skin. But they saw that the primitive parts of their brain were actually lighting up, and the parts that are associated with like change during the development years. So they're getting those mental feelings because their brain is actually telling them that their body is physically changing, even though it's not. Well, and I had asked because DID, dissociative identity disorder, or multiple personalities, it used to be called. They've noticed that people with that can actually exhibit physical changes when they, like, one will not be diabetic while the other will require insulin. So did you see if that was similar in any way to the DID?
So like in the big study they did, they gathered up like 5 of the current people that are scheduled as being diagnosed with medical lycanthropy, and they like measured their brain activity, things like they checked that. But then the other thing they did is when they felt like the person was having transformations and stuff like that, they measured like what you're talking about, like their chemicals and things like that, to see if there were any physical changes with them. Like 3 out of 5 the body was actually undergoing different physical changes. In one of them, their heart rate started beating at a different heart rate that more closely matched.
Faster, like an animal's.
Right. One of them, they noted that the body temperature had actually changed.
Did any of them eat people?
Some of them did, and those are ones that are like clinically admitted because they've committed acts of cannibalism and things like that.
You just get admitted for that? You don't go to jail for eating people?
Well, I think they turned themselves in. Is the sort of, like they were looking for help. So they had admitted in I think in one case, like, it wasn't illegal cannibalism, like they had come by the meat legally. There's
Is that ever legal, cannibalism?
Yeah, cannibalism's actually only illegal in one state. It's the part of it that's illegal.
It's not this state, is it?
No, it's like Ohio or something like that, which makes you ask, like, what the hell happened in Ohio? You know,
obviously cannibalism.
But well, I mean, there's a story I shared where the guy, he had his leg amputated, so he saved his leg and he made tacos for all his friends. Eating human meat isn't illegal. It's just the way you obtain it usually is, because you either have to mutilate a body, murder somebody, something like that. So there are ways of obtaining human meat for consumption legally. And I didn't get into the details of that specific person's case or whatever, but yeah, some of them had committed cannibalism because they felt they were an animal out on the hunt.
Excuse me, doctor, I'm going to need some service here. I've gnawed off my own arm.
But mostly what they were doing is that, they were like eating squirrels out of the backyard and things like that, raw, and then running around butt naked in the woods. Crazy stuff like that. But they did find it, like, it's different than just straight up schizophrenia, in that they're not just hearing voices or having weird compulsions. Their brain is actually working different but all that stuff gets lumped together. So they're having to like re-review all those cases. But lycanthropy, the medical side of lycanthropy, where they've recognized it as like a mental illness, goes like on the books all the way back to 1850, but it was recognized even a century before that. Like, it's in a lot of historical documents where they don't actually, it's written about, and they don't actually think the person was really turning into a literal animal, but they were documenting that they behaved animalistic, or they thought they were animalistic. Like I've actually got like all the files on it, and then there's actually another condition that comes up a lot of time, and it's that hypertrichosis, which is where you grow all the extra body hair and you look like the Wolfman from...
So the ones I've seen were, it was 2 kids from Mexico that had been traveling around with the carnival, and they had the hypertrichosis where their face, basically it was like beard growth. It was just everywhere.
Right.
And that had it exhibited. The interesting thing was it exhibited way before puberty. So even before you normally get facial hair growth or body hair, they were 2 and 3 and it already grown these fur coats.
And like in older times, people they would commonly be like in sideshows and things like that. But imagine back then being uneducated and seeing that, you might think that person was actually turning into an animal or was supernatural or something. And then if you found the rare case where somebody was suffering from hypertrichosis and was like a serial murderer or something,
yeah, that would be.
It's the odds aren't in the favor of that, but
it give rise to a lot of rumors, though.
Yeah, it would be there, but psychiatry actually does recognize lycanthropy as like its own diagnosis, and like I was saying before, where a lot of people think they're werewolves, and that's like the popular one. But
the dog face boy, is that what the dog face boy was? I don't think I know about the dog.
Yeah, dog face boy. That would be one of the people in this big thick hypertrichosis file I pulled up. There's the dog. Oh my God, there's a ton of cases. This would be the dog face boy, actually. Crow Faneri from 1883.
Okay.
So yeah,
they're just hairy.
Yeah, they're just super hairy, and I was looking at like what some of the treatments for that are, and nowadays they'll just do like laser hair removal for it. It's a medical condition, but I found it weird that it was totally separate from just being nuts.
Yeah, well that's a genetic or acquired disorder, whereas the other one's mental, one's more physical.
Right. It goes back pretty far, but I mean, he was asking, do they actually change? And that's what we were talking about. Is they tracked like there were like, they obviously don't turn into dogs or whatever, but they would exhibit physical characteristics that were out of the ordinary. Like their brain would actually control their physiology and change their physiology, which kind of delves into like what some of our study is, is do certain experiences change your physiology?
What was that movie we watched not too long ago? Split.
With
the person with all the the different personalities.
Yeah, he had the
but it seemed like they were alluding. Well, it's M. Night Shyamalan, so
yeah,
it was
but at the end of it, when it turns into the monster, he metamorphoses.
That one of them was an animalistic.
And also Red Dragon kind of alludes to the same thing. He goes crazy. He wants to change or whatever, and he's kind of Looney Tunes, but towards the end he like gets stronger and stuff. But it's kind of that lack of inhibition, I would think.
Yeah, your brain limits the things you can do. A lot of that with weightlifting too, like that's the adrenaline rush we were talking about the other day.
Anger and sad faces I just saw up there. Was that because I'm drinking?
Angry sad face. But
so what's this beast of filet mignon?
Well, that's so what's interesting too is even before the beast, like in Greek mythology, there is this King Lycan.
Right, and that's where lycanthropy comes from. So King Lycan.
And that he was the king of Arcadia. But the story I'd always heard about him is the last story on this is that he invited Zeus to a dinner, and to test Zeus's godly powers, he had baked some children in a pie. And Zeus got super pissy with this and cursed them with lycanthropy. But in this story, it says that he just turned into a wolf to escape.
Huh. So it wasn't a curse. He just turned into a wolf to...
Well, I'm not sure. I honestly only looked up one article on it because I was more interested in the beast. But, yeah.
Sounds like the Sega video game Altered Beast to me.
I don't know. A lot of the medical terminology and stuff we get is from, like, older mythology. But, yeah, the beast of Gévaudan was way later.
So what's the main werewolf myth though? It would be that do you get bit by a werewolf or are you born a werewolf?
Well, that you get bit by a werewolf. And the beast of like back when that was a thing, a lot of the mythos was like you drink from the paw print of a wolf.
Okay.
And you turn into a werewolf.
That's the Romanian, like the Romanov era sort of thing. So like a lot of that comes from like the gypsies.
Yeah.
Sort of deal from Romania.
And then the you get bit by a werewolf.
I think one of the things I read at one point is like the silver bullet thing that actually only came about after the movie. The original Wolfman movie. I think I can't remember what the original mythos is for actually killing a werewolf or getting rid of your werewolf affliction sort of thing. I don't know that they're...
I think you had to have the curse removed.
Yeah, because I think initially the curse was put on you and you had to have the curse removed.
Killing the werewolf that bit you. I remember from a kid being one of the ways to get rid of it. You'd have to kill the werewolf that bit you. I'm not sure where they got that.
It's just weird how it's changed over the years because now, because you were talking about wolfsbane earlier, but I don't think wolfsbane was initially part of it.
Well,
silver bullets weren't. I think silver might have been.
Wolfsbane's a poison anyway. Aconite is, it'll kill you if you eat it, so...
And then going back even further, like I found this really cool article that suggested that Nebuchadnezzar, who was basically the king of Babylon at the time.
Yeah.
And his big deal was he basically didn't want to bend the knee to God. It's like he respected him as like his neighbor's God or whatever, but he didn't want to worship him as his own. And so God punished him, and the way the verses are out, it basically says that he was like banished out of the town to go live in the wild, and his hair grew thick and his nails grew long and stuff like that. But the article I was reading suggested that the original texts were closer to saying that he was actually turned into an animal, or that was like one of the first cases of, that's the first example of a werewolf.
Oh, biblical lore, yeah.
Yeah, in biblical lore.
There's a lot of,
Well, I messaged James about it. He's got a PhD in theology, mythical studies, actually. Mm-hmm. And he's like, man, I don't remember it that way at all. So, that could be kind of out of left field. It's just another one of those interpretations of the Bible.
Yeah.
But
when people look for supernatural specifically in the Bible,
right.
If you look hard enough, you will find instances of things like that.
So your story, this thing that you're following, the only thing I know about it is from what we watched on Teen Wolf, and I was really in and out of those like 3 episodes.
That show's actually really great. Like, it's interesting because I thought, okay, this is a stupid show. I'm going to watch it because I like stupid stuff. But a lot of the mythology is really accurate.
Well, I mean, that's what makes a good show is when you tie it to actual historical.
Because they talk a lot about the maid of Gévaudan and that's a chick that lived in the South France that was able to fight this beast off with nothing but a pike.
Okay, so taking out all the werewolf part of it, what is the story? What was going on? People were just dying left and right?
There is a historical case where they don't know what did it, but all these people start popping up dead in the south of France. It's the historical region of Gévaudan, but
when is this happening?
1764 to 1767.
Okay.
A lot of people were killed. Many people were just seriously injured. The hybrid assumption was based on descriptions, and they describe it like a canid, and a lot of people would describe it like a hyena.
So kind of like on all fours, high arch
black or red hair. But the height or width of a larger animal, like a horse. and often with a pig nose. Like all these different conflicting stories they have.
Like man, bear, pig?
It's man, bear, pig.
Man, bear, pig.
Yeah. And they sent hunters out and they just slaughtered wolves across the region. Because they got this idea in their head that it was perhaps a rabid wolf.
So it's the plot of Jaws. so there's a shark and it eats somebody, and so they just start slaughtering. They're like, "Oh, I found the shark," or what? And they're like, "That's not the shark. The bites don't match." Right?
I haven't seen Jaws since I was a kid.
So they closed France for July 4th, or they were gonna close France for. This is how the story really goes. So there was this chick. She was out like in the woods, hanging out, chilling, having a picnic, and then bigger Jaws came out of the woods, got her. Right, and they find half of her, and so they go out into the woods and they just slaughter everything that has teeth. And they come back and they're like, "We got it. It's cool. We don't have to close France for July 4th."
The teeth.
And then bigger Jaws comes out and they're like, "I told you." And he's like, "We should have got a bigger boat." Did I get it right?
The monster's first victim was Jean Boulet, a 14-year-old girl watching her sheep. Her death was followed by others, almost exclusively women and children. It would specifically go after people that were alone. So people herding their sheep, people traveling back and forth.
Okay, so that fits two things. That fits a smart predatory animal or a serial killer.
A lot of people think it was a young male lion that had somehow gotten imported to the region, or a historical ancestor of wolves, some bigger wolves, bigger jaws.
Okay.
Yes, so accurately.
So it was feral wolves that weren't...
Maybe. Or a human serial killer is the other thing that's been mentioned by more recent scholars. Because all of a sudden, these deaths just stop. So they assume that either the person or the animal committing them did get killed by one of these groups of hunters. Because the king actually sent his best hunter out to kill
Sent out his champion to slay the beast.
Yeah.
Sarah Hadfield joined. That's weird.
Shut up. As the head count rose.
Oh, it looks like everybody's drinking bourbon for this episode. So every time we say werewolf or lycanthropy, you have to take a drink. That's how it works. Werewolf lycanthropy.
They called it la bête. Individuals may have had some success defending themselves, but official hunters had none. In February of 1765, this word I can't pronounce, a father-son hunter duo from Normandy announced that they would travel to Gévaudan and eliminate the beast. John Charles, the father, boasted he'd already killed 1,200 wolves. Relevant information assuming the predator was, in fact, a wolf. But no one was sure of that. It was much bigger than a wolf, wrote Lafront in an earlier report. It has a snout somewhat like a calf's and very long hair, which would seem to indicate a hyena. So, I'm not sure how a hyena would have gotten. And Stephen mentioned something about that too, is hyenas have a really distinctive noise they make. They laugh.
Right.
So
this thing, it was going around, it was killing anybody that was like isolated on their own, not paying attention, things like that. But it wasn't just in Gévaudan.
It was the whole area of South France.
Right. And so it was kind of
historically
moving around.
they just call that whole area Gévaudan, I guess.
Right. And I think one of the things that kind of goes along with giving credence to the fact that it might have been a creature, not a person, is its ease of movement. Is the thing, like, you know, is a person in the 1700s, you know, it was kind of hard to get around, you know, you had to have a horse, cart, things like, you know, to go around. But I think when I was looking at the map, like the wide berth that it was kind of doing, it looked more like hunting grounds, and and it was always like on the outskirts of town and things like that.
When you think of a person, they would have gotten injured when some of these people fought back.
Right.
And there's no, signs that anyone sought medical attention or anything. Hyenas smaller than wolves. I don't know. The heights and the physical descriptions are so just opposite each other.
Yeah, there's different accounts. It could have even been multiple animals, and it's all getting attributed to, one creature or something like that. But The main account comes from the lady you were talking about that fended it off with
the maid with a pike. Yeah.
Yeah. She got attacked. She was all alone. And she managed to fend it off, and she wounded it really, like it was documented.
That's the story, that she hurt it enough to make it bleed and run away.
Right. But then it kept coming back for more. But the creature was never actually caught or found out.
Not that they know of.
Right. But the killings eventually just stopped.
Yeah, like I said, they kept sending out hunters and groups of hunters, and they were killing random animals in the region. So, like the wholesale slaughter we've done with wolves historically is basically what they did here. So if it was multiple attacks, they took enough natural predators out of the area that it just ended. Or it was a person who died from someone defending themselves or just left the region. I don't know.
Yeah, and like she was saying that aren't hyenas smart. The thing is like they were saying it looks like this creature, but it's bigger. Kind of like the way they describe Bigfoot. Well, it looks like an ape, but
just bigger.
It's bigger. Or Jaws. Well, it looks like a great white, but it's bigger. So that was their big thing, and there were I liked all the illustrations and stuff that you pulled up. Like
see that this was the main.
So, it looks like a devil puppy.
Yeah.
I want to pet the devil puppy.
I don't think that looks like a hyena at all. But then other people had discussed the body size. So they thought it looked more like a lion because of the width of the shoulders and like the girth of the body.
I'm trying to look at some of these comments.
Turn your sound down, Brad. God.
Yeah, I know.
What's wrong with you? A couple of creepy things happened to me. Once I was walking to work, and I look on the side, and I saw two white dots, like eyes. It couldn't have been an animal because that was my height. What could it be? Something in a tree?
Could really be anything. I mean, when we were out at Denton, there, we would see eyes out in the woods all the time at different levels. And when the Ghost Adventures crew got out there, that was their biggest thing of evidence, because they're like, oh, we're over here talking, and you can see these two eyes in the background, and they're like, what could that be? Because, they're measuring out the height, but what they're totally not taking into account is
terrain.
Is what the terrain is back there.
Trees.
And the type of lighting they're using.
Animals that are as tall as you.
But we've also been out to Kyle and seen like crazy animal activity out there. I remember when that donkey was like walking around, and that would have been like
We don't know for sure.
No, remember, it was during the day. We saw the donkey out there, and I'm like,
the animals on the backfield. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, there's the sound. What is it? We're gonna see it during the day, and it's just this donkey back there, like, hey, what are you doing?
It is the Chupacabra. The Chupacabra, I think, is a coyote with the mange, with a penchant for murdering.
Didn't Allie hit a Chupacabra?
Yes, her story was she was driving. I think it was from Godley to Cleburne, and she hit this animal, and she got out to check because she's a genius. And it was some sort of gross-looking dog coyote with the mange. So she thinks she killed the Chupacabra. So it's obviously not a problem anymore.
So everybody's safe from the Chupacabra because Allie hit it with her Corolla or whatever it was. But I'm embarrassed because most of my knowledge about werewolves and stuff comes from the White Wolf game. Werewolf. The apocalypse.
Nerd.
So when I think of werewolves, I think of them as like, oh, we're all in clans and we're hippies and we hate styrofoam. So that's kind of my thing, because they want to protect Gaia and all that stuff. So I'm trying to separate out what the facts are with what I read in White Wolf. But I mean, it's a strong enough mythos that it's gone back so far that it's spawned like movie after movie, story after story, and it shows, and it doesn't just show up like in our history sort of thing. Like it showed up in France in 1700s.
No, it's a cross-cultural
right,
phenomenon.
And it goes back even further than them, almost, like any other sort of cross-cultural. I mean, there's werewolves in like Asian culture. When you look further back, they show up in Hindu culture. There's not even a lot of wolves from that area.
If you had other animals, you get like the Mayan and Aztec,
right? Yeah,
Jaguar people.
And I mean, even with our thing with like the skinwalker, I mean, it's not necessarily like a werewolf, but it's something that can turn into a coyote. So this idea,
they're all shape changers.
Yeah, that shape changers that we're that in tune with nature that we can change shape back and forth from human form to animal form, either through power of mind or through like connection through spirituality. It just goes back really far. And even though there's not a lot of scientific, like not a lot, there is zero scientific evidence that can point to people can turn into animals. But it's really crazy because there's so much credibility. The idea is so ingrained. Like, if it was totally nuts, why would those psychiatrists even bother monitoring their physicality? Yeah. And if they could do changes. So it's so ingrained in our culture, and like these paranormal events, they're so ingrained that credible scientists, even though in the end a lot of that stuff gets dismissed, they still take the time they're like, well, I want to do a study on it. And they're almost the same as us, And
these are nerds like us that happen to go to college.
Right. And that's what I always say is, like, people that get into science, they didn't, no one gets into science because they're like, well, I want to get a job testing milk cultures, with my...
I like spreadsheets.
Yeah, no one gets into it for that. They're like, I want to find aliens, or, I want to be able to travel through time, or, I want to prove that werewolves are a thing. Like, that's what gets you into science. Like, you develop at a certain point.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I find it funny that, like, there's other people like us that are adult scientists, and I find it crazier that there's like adult scientists that get like paid for a living to do adult science, and they're like
research werewolves.
Yeah, and they're like, well, today's research topic is, can Jeff turn into a werewolf? Let's sit him in a chair and bombard him with lunar energy and see what it's just...
This story up here sounds like a skinwalker story to me.
Okay, so...
early in the morning, someone passed me, but the most weird thing is you didn't see the face. That's another of the common skinwalker...
The faceless thing?
Well, not... Or that its face didn't... Or you can't remember the face, or its face was blurry.
Or you didn't spot it, yeah.
But yeah, it'll walk by you and you're like, oh, that was a person. Wait, that wasn't a person.
And see, that's the thing, is we're totally logical, but when we go on these, like...
Yes, totally logical.
Nature excursions, like, I can feel something watching us from the fucking woods.
Well, it's nature. There is something watching you.
But I'm talking about a monster. There's a monster out there, and it's watching us, and it's yay high, and it's like, I'm going to eat your face. I don't like it. It sucks. And those things are out there.
It's mountain lion. It's always a mountain lion.
You know what? I will dismiss ghosts and other paranormal things all day. There's definitely skinwalkers. There's probably werewolves.
Okay, what we
there's
think
probably
are skinwalkers.
I don't know.
Vampires, really? Is that what we're going with
now?
There's
goddamn creatures out there, and they want to eat your face.
Or there's crazy humans that want to, mess with you. Let's see if we can make these assholes run out of this cemetery.
I'm down with it either way.
I don't know. I'm always more worried about people than I am anything else.
So they never caught the beast at all, and it only got wounded the one time?
It got wounded a couple of times. There was... Children a few times had fended it off somehow. Groups of not feral, but just herds of children. But it never got officially caught because there was a reward on its head that was the equivalent of a year's worth of pay. But no one ever got enough. They never had enough proof that this was the beast that they got the payment for it.
So they just kind of outlived it, whatever it was.
They outlived it, or it was some sort of mass hysteria and a bunch of unrelated murders.
If I was going to be a werewolf and I was going to eat a bunch of kids and people, I don't think it would be in France, though.
I was doing like cleaning in a restaurant about 5 a.m. when I saw him standing in front of the main restaurant doors. Oh, black-eyed kid stuff. Those creep me out. All the stories of freaking the black-eyed kid
The black-eyed children.
Yeah, I don't like that. I have kids. They're creepy enough on their own.
Yeah, if I was a creature that was eating people, I don't know that I would do it in France because I'm not real big on French cuisine anyway, and so I don't figure that people taste much better.
Well, like the pack of wolves could hop a boat to America.
I don't know. And see, I always thought of the werewolf as more of a Native American sort of
Six
legend.
smaller wolves standing on each other's shoulders in a trench coat.
Yeah. That makes way more plausible sense than people turning into wolves. I like the idea of the deep blue sea, ultra smart puppy wolves imitating bigger wolves so that they can get human snacks as opposed to people turning into dogs.
Well, in modern times, it's a lot easier to tell the difference between an animal versus a human killer because humans tend to kill with tools. We're not as strong as animals. We're not going to kill with our teeth. And if we kill with our bare hands, it's really evident. But back then, they wouldn't have had any of the technology that would have shown them the difference between it just could have been a really savage human.
Right. Well, and the tools probably weren't better either. And then I think I also read somewhere that there was a theory that the Jack the Ripper killings were actually maybe like somebody that was suffering with lycanthropy. It was animals, because he commonly got attributed to somebody with medical experience because the people were cut open
tools,
and organs removed. But I think the thing that gets lost in some of the lore is actually those killings weren't certain organs and things were removed, but they weren't like these neat surgical cuts. They were really ragged, like dismemberments, torn apart. And then the inner pieces were missing, and they're like, well, what's he doing with it? If one of the theories out there is the reason, like, is
that not what surgeons did back then? They just cut you open and remove random organs
and keep them?
Yes.
Normally they throw them away or do something like that. But one of the theories is that whoever was doing the Ripper killings was actually eating the organs. He was feeding or whatever, which is, I mean, there's plausibility to that. But
cannibalism happens.
Yeah, but the police got back I believe it was the heart wrapped up in paper.
That was bath salts. The guy in Florida that ate his friend's face.
Those are also zombies. That's a different episode entirely. See, that's one of the things where the myths get changed. Like, now, how do you kill a zombie?
You shoot it in the head.
Yeah, see, that wasn't the original thing. Zombies were made by voodoo, and to kill a zombie, you have to fill its mouth with salt and sew it shut. That's how you're supposed to put a zombie down.
Well, I have this book series I like about a necromancer, and that's what she does when she puts them back. She has to fill their mouth full of salt.
Yeah, that's the original lore. To get some water to...
Oh, he's still talking.
He's just got this really epic going on.
Come towards the door, he just wanted me to let him in. To get some water with the same creepy voice, started to ask questions. Can I let him in? At the same time, see, that too sounds like the Skinwalker story to me, because the Skinwalker will mimic a person to get you to let it in, or the Wendigo calls your name to get you to come out.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, the Wendigo, it sounds like the
Isn't the Wendigo and Skinwalker the same thing?
No, a Wendigo that's the northwestern or South Canadian, where it's cannibalism.
It's more polite.
But
hey, come on over, eh? I'd like to eat your face, Sarah.
But it moves in with the wind, and it'll whisper your name until you'll come out of and they were Native Americans, so until you left the camp to come out and see, and then it eats you.
And it's like Gretzky.
But Brad, I hate you. Skinwalkers were the Navajo witch doctors that had practiced dark magic and had, been able to change shapes to coyotes or other things.
Right, and that's what mimics our voices when we go. And see, we talk about this case every podcast, even though we vow we're not going to, but it relates back to everything.
I never said I wasn't gonna.
It's the scariest damn thing on the planet. I guess since this guy's talking about it, though, and I've never seen him in our comments field. I guess we can go over it again. But I mean, the weird thing about that case is that when we go back and we review the evidence, you know, there's tons of instances where you can hear another investigator talking, but then you go back to like their body cam or the recorder that they were carrying, and they weren't talking at the time.
Yeah, I had you ask Kristen specifically on the last podcast because I thought she didn't have any experiences out there.
No, she had a bunch.
And then while y'all were on the podcast, I watched the video, and sure enough, I turn around and I'm like, "What'd you say, Kristen?" She's like, "What are you talking about, lunatic?"
Yeah.
And she didn't say, because she's holding the camera and there's no voice from her.
Yeah, and I mean, it fits into the shape changer thing. And stuff like that actually scares me more than the ghosts or the ghosts and demons. You don't see, we never find them. You don't see them. They don't show up a lot. A lot of times they're residual. They just float around. They rattle chains. They go boo, you know, and that's usually the end of it. But with the other myths,
They can actually hurt you.
Yeah, if there's any truth to it, that's something that can like grab you and throttle you, you know, and it's.
Well, and I think that's part of the thing that bothers us about the original incident at Kyle when we saw the thing walk by is it was solid. It looked like something that could, you know, rip a tree out of the ground and beat you to death with it. It wasn't a ghostly apparition that just wanted to make contact. It was a freaking their thing. It was a monster.
Yeah, it was just something moving around in that back lot, and you know, initially we thought it was just a regular animal, but the size was off. And that's eerily similar to what they're saying. It's like, oh, it looked like a hyena or a wolf, but it was just big.
Like it looked like a bear because it could walk on its back legs, but it was skinny.
So do you think an actual werewolf, would that fit into paranormal or like cryptozoology, or?
I definitely think that's a cryptozoology thing.
Yeah.
It goes along with Bigfoot and skinwalkers. I don't think that's I guess it would all fall under the heading of paranormal because it's not normal.
It's not something that can be proven, or that hasn't currently been proven by science.
Pseudoscience.
So here's some of the cool stuff about the clinical side of it. So the main hospital that was doing a lot of the research on it's the McLean Hospital, and it reported on a series of cases that were proposed. And here's the criteria where they would consider, you know, possibly lycanthropy as opposed to schizophrenia, right? Patient reports in the moment of lucidity. Oh yeah, that's one of the things is they fall between lucidity and blackouts. Like a lot of times when
so they're like having a fugue state when this is going on.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes they'll have sometimes they'll have memories of being a werewolf or a werecat or a were-alligator, whatever they turn into.
Were-alligator.
Well, and it's also regional, too. Like I said, wolves are like the smallest demographic of that, ironically, because werewolves are the most, like, popular.
Yeah, and lichen, you know, it's werewolves.
Right. But it's a regional thing. And since wolves are isolated to certain regions, especially like since, you know, the 1700s, you know, when this really picks up, of course, less and less people are thinking they turn into wolves. So it depends on what kinship they have with the local whatever wild animal is. Cats are big. In China, like 90% of the people that were
Were pandas.
No, foxes.
Foxes. Oh,
yeah.
well, yeah, fox spirits are big in Asian culture.
And so a patient reports in a moment of lucidity or reminiscence that they sometimes feel an animal or have felt like one. Patient behaves in a manner that resembles animal behavior, example, howling, growling, and clawing. According to these criteria, either delusional belief in current or past transformation or behavior that suggests a person thinks of themselves as transformed is considered evidence of clinical lycanthropy. So the first step is the claim that, hey, I turn into an animal sort of thing, and that's kind of what initiates the ball.
And do they actually think? I mean, so let's suppose you're living in modern times, and I wake up next month and I think I'm turning into a werewolf. My first thought is going to be that there's something wrong with my brain.
Right, and a lot of these people realize that there's something wrong with their brain.
They know that it's not physical.
But that's one of the things that's like so controversial about it, as opposed to just a regular psychosis, right? So if you wake up and you're hearing voices, or you're having like the schizophrenic thoughts, a lot of those people, they're like, well, I know I shouldn't just be hearing voices, something's wrong, but it somehow kind of melds that it's a normal sort of thing. So
that's part of the disorder, is that it's
right. So it totally it's got to be weird at first, but then at some point it's going to meld in your psyche where you start believing this thing is like can actually happen. And what the difference is with the psychosis, it's like this like you hear the voices and stuff like that, but it's always this overlying thing that's in your brain.
Yeah.
As with the study that they show, and this is a relatively new study, with the lycanthropy study, your brain is actually sending signals to your body to change its physiology. So you're thinking this thing that's not happening, but you're not necessarily insane. Your brain is sending signals to your body to change.
Yeah.
That's not nuts. That's actually happening. Just because it doesn't trigger an actual physical change.
Well,
so
I talk about my chronic illness is my brain says my hand's injured. It doesn't physically look like it's injured, but the pain is real because my brain says it is, and that's what controls your entire body.
Right. So, I mean, how much would it suck, like, if your physical pain was treated as a psychosis?
Yeah.
Even though your brain is literally sending electrical signal, that's not just something wrong with your way of thinking, because when you think of psychology, that's diagnosing the way people think, the mechanics of how they problem solve in their head is wrong. Like they're abusive or there's something emotionally damaging. But once it gets to the point that your brain is incorrectly sending signals and working wrong, that goes into the physiological, the biological. And that's where...
But to treat it, you have to treat the brain. It's
right, and it's so it's like such a gray area, and that's why the new study is so weird, because they've taken these 13 cases and they're like, okay, we need to look at alternate church. Like, we can't just because you can't just convince them that they're not a dog sort of thing, because their brain's still maybe they can ignore it. They can go, okay, I'm not really a dog, but they're still getting the signal. They're still feeling it. You could maybe tell yourself, okay, my hand doesn't hurt. You can tell yourself that all day, but the signal still...
Don't make it true.
Yeah. So that's why I think the clinical lycanthropy thing is like so interesting, because it breaks out of just, okay, Mr. Crazy Pants barks every time the moon comes out. It's, okay, he barks every time the moon comes out.
He gets stronger.
Yeah,
he can run faster.
Yeah, there's actually like kind of something to it.
Craving for human flesh.
And I was trying to think of how could I go out of left field, think of these sort of things, and it could be that we share physiology, like our DNA is made up of a bunch of different our lineage, we go back or whatever, but biodiversity, it starts somewhere before it splits off or whatever. So our kinship with other animals, we're mammals, just, like apes or whatever, but wolves are also mammals. Foxes are also mammals. So when I was looking through the cases and I was looking at the most common things that people turn into, they were all mammals.
Yeah.
And that's not something that they brought up. That's something I noticed in the case file while I was trying to go off. So I wonder if that...
We're drawing on something that's actually in our DNA. Right,
yeah, like there's bits of previous prehistoric genetic coding that's still in there that we're like drawing off of.
The stories can...
the legend continues.
Well, we did a podcast a couple weeks ago on parasomnias, and he's talking about hearing scratching while he's asleep, they have some big sleeping problems, and they were hearing scratching. They were alone in the house. That sounds a lot like the parasomnia stuff we were discussing. It also sounds like the raccoon that's in my attic that has me terrified right now. It's a big raccoon. I heard it the other day. It was thump, thump, thump.
This has become like every paranormal case we've ever been on. It is what it is. But what I really need to do this weekend is I need to pull down the attic door, go up there with my really expensive thermal camera that we use to hunt ghosts with, and track down this fucking rodent that's been just terrorizing my attic for the past month.
She's gonna lean out of the darkness and take the thermal cam from you.
I'm gonna be climbing up.
I am the human now.
The ladder, and it's just gonna be like here, and it's like right in my face. Grab it. I'm gonna fall down. You're gonna find me in my garage. I'm afraid the Grudge chick is gonna be up there. Is what it is.
That movie wrecked me. For
well, the thing
life.
is I pulled the attic door down just a little to look up there, and I realized the light has gone out because the way my cable's so I have a light up there, but there's a power outlet right by it. And the way my satellite and all that set up, it's plugged into that unit. If I turn the switch off for the light up in the attic, it turns that off. Right?
Yeah.
So the light's always on in the attic, so I never have a problem going up in the attic. I pulled the thing down just a little bit, and I realized it was dark up there. Plus, it's Texas, and it's like 108.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's 108 degrees downstairs right now, so I don't want to go up there at all.
Dude, whatever animal's living up there is a trooper.
It's a were-coon.
Raccoon.
It's a were-coon.
Oh, no, raccoon on the second floor. No, I was thinking more it was a sleep issue. Like, we talked about the exploding head syndrome where you wake up hearing a noise, or sleep paralysis, any of these number of things and that feel super paranormal. And we're not saying they're never paranormal. Like, we can't discount any of these stories.
I think some issues are paranormally caused or open you up to paranormal. But well, I mean, some of the stuff we're talking, like, obviously sleep paralysis is a thing.
They live in the UK. See, I've always wanted to go to the UK because it seems like that'd be so much more haunted than the United States. Like, our country's so young.
Well, I'm on the Paranormal Hauntings website a lot because I do.
You're awake, yeah.
Because I do the article for, or I do some of the articles for the magazine as it comes out. So I'm on theirs all the time. And Charlene, she's the one that runs that. And dude, every weekend they have, like, you know how we always
they're like, oh, we're going to a castle. I'm like,
it's like the way we look for, like,
thanks for watching, Julie.
Oh, thanks. Like the way we look for just like abandoned crackhead houses, they find like castles, and they're like, oh, we this abandoned sarcophagus, or this tunnel that leads from I don't know UK places, from Wimbledon to Skoozabungan, and if
that sort of stuff keeps happening though, you need to carry around a camera. You need to video some of this stuff because your stories are interesting.
So catch me up on what's going on over there. So just
they told all these stories. The one about the eyes in the forest when they were walking to work. The person they walked by that the face they didn't or couldn't see or didn't remember. The kind of black-eyed kid-esque story where they were in the restaurant and someone was trying to get them to let them in, which I said sounded like the skinwalker stuff. Do they have skinwalkers in the UK?
No.
The other thing I spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about, because we do live in Texas, especially in Comanche area, is how likely it is that all of our homes are resting on just the bones of
I got in the
dead Native Americans.
Online freaking troll argument the other day because somebody got on the board and they said, all right guys, this is what I'm gonna do. I've seen everybody's BS. I'm gonna, cause I'm a skeptic, I'm an investigator. I'm gonna get a Ouija board. I'm gonna summon a demon, and I'm going to invite it to possess me. What do you think? Like, and you can.
Well, I think you're a moron, even though no.
He was like, even if it's 100% true, I'm not gonna believe it until it happens. So this is happening no matter what. And I was like, hey man, that's like your thing. But somebody had got on there and they're like, man, don't do that. You're stupid. Just read a book. It happened here. And they brought up the Amityville.
Oh Lord.
And like the next guy's comment was great because he's like, why the fuck would you read the Amityville of all things to like dissuade you from doing paranormal stuff? He's like, that's the fakest case. And they're like, no, they wrote a book about it and they made several movies.
Stephen King wrote a bunch of fucking books too.
But that was their thing. But the thing they mentioned, they said, oh, it was proven. It was the house was built on ancient Indian burial ground. Blah blah blah.
So the rest of the country.
Well, first off, that was 100% debunked. Like the original claim that was put out that the at 12.
The poltergeist story is
No,
the one
no.
that was
2020 is your address. It's 1212 Ocean Avenue. 1212 Ocean Avenue is where the Amityville house is, by the way.
Thanks for giving out my address on.
Well, anyway, so the original burial ground that they were saying was there isn't. It's not. But the point you just said was the same. I'm like, it's America. Everywhere is Indian burial ground. Like, the amount of deaths that have happened in the world have to outweigh the amount of people that are alive. So there's literally nowhere you can step anywhere where that somebody hasn't been buried or died or something tragic happened, right?
Pretty much all countries in existence were built on war and murder. Talking about the earliest story is 4 to 5. Is that most people seem to have their first ghost experience between 5 and 10? Is that just when your brain comes online and you realize that these things are incongruous with reality? Because I mean, if it
you know what, I totally unrelated this not unrelated, but it fits in, and I wasn't looking for it, so I was listening on the radio on the way to work today. Britain just finished a study that says 40% of everything you remember from your childhood is bullshit. Apparently you're like, and we've been saying this, like, your memory doesn't work that way. You're not recalling the original data.
Yeah, you're recalling a memory
It
of
turns
a memory
out
of a memory.
their study shows that I think they said over 40% of people, the memories that they were having, that they were recalling, they're actually piecing it together from pictures and stories they were told by other family members.
And dreams is another big one.
And they think it's their own memory, but it's not. Turns out you don't remember anything before like 7 years old or 6 years old or something. Like, you just think you do.
Yeah, but I was thinking, like, okay, so a 2-year-old sees a ghost in their room. Now, they might not articulate that to you because it doesn't seem weird to them.
It's just a thing.
Yeah, they have imaginary friends. They don't know the way the world works. I mean, my daughter would go to sleep and she'd wake up in our room, and that was completely normal to her because we moved her. Now, if I go to sleep and I wake up in a different room, that's scary. But to a little kid, they're not going to be able to articulate, and it's not probably even going to bother them.
Especially if they haven't been explained death yet either.
Yeah.
Like death permanence or anything like that.
And that takes a long time
to kind of sink in. So,
but that first experience it's right. It seems to be right when your brain realizes that this is not normal.
I think what makes kid paranormal experiences so creepy is that indifference to it.
I saw a ghost and meh.
Yeah, like if the kid came to you and was like, oh, this really scary thing, you're kind of like, okay, I can handle this. There's something weird going on. Maybe you're imagining it. But when they're just like, yeah, I was talking to dead Charlie. He had his brain bashed in. It was hanging out. He died in a motorcycle accident. They have like this whole freaking backstory that they shouldn't know.
Well, that was...
And they're just like,
That was Caitlin walked in just deadpan. Hey, there's a headless man in my room putting blood and fire on the walls. And then she just goes to watching TV. I was like, what?
What's for dinner?
Excuse me, child? But she just nonchalant. Headless man, blood and fire on my walls.
Yeah, like when Andrew, he wakes up in the middle of the night and he's screaming at the closet. Like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's scary.
There's some... Now we close the closet door. When the other kid just like, I'd like to play in my room with the dead guy.
My imaginary friend got killed in a car crash accident and he had injuries here and here and here and... Nope.
Yeah,
screw our mortgage, we're out of here.
Yeah, the extra knowledge is the thing that really kicks it over, where you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? How do you know how Uncle Bob died or whatever?
And like the past life story thing too is the knowledge. The things they seem to know that they shouldn't know.
I read some other really cool werewolf stories that were, and one of them was actually on Paranormal Survivor. It was pretty good, and I like that. I like that one because instead of them like
Paranormal Witness is the one I like, where they recreate it like a fictional thing.
Okay, that might be
on the Sci-Fi.
I think it's called Paranormal Survivor.
There's two. That is one. It's on Netflix.
Well, the one I was watching, it was like nestled in between two like possession episodes, where I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
But in like the way it started off, I was like, where are they going with it? Because they didn't give any like leader, and so they moved into this cabin like way out in the woods or whatever, and it was a really cool story, but something like started coming after the family, and it started. They had like perimeter fences and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it was setting it off, and they were going. And when they first went out there, it looked like it was like a gang of people coming to purge.
Oh, jeez.
Right?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, shit. And then they were trying to call the cops, but they didn't have the phone set up yet because they had just moved in or whatever. And so they were about to leave. But the guy noticed when the light sensors came on, they wouldn't come into the light at all. And so he flipped on all the lights in the house or whatever. And
You're going to need to show me this episode.
It's a really good episode. I don't know if it's true, but
no, but I like
horror. It was a damn good story. And so they were all just staying around the perimeter. Well, they were smart enough that they started like cutting the power or whatever. And so he's like trying to keep it's almost like pitch black, the movie. And he's like trying to keep the lights on with the generator or whatever. And eventually he like makes his way out to the truck. You know, and he's like in the street lamp or whatever, gets to the truck and the street lamp cuts out and they start like coming after him or whatever. And so he was trying to get to the truck so they could like get away. He ends up just running back to the house. They get inside, they get the lights on or whatever. And they end up cutting the power, and then they keep a few lights on it, and they're in the upstairs and they can just hear the things like trying to come in or whatever until daytime finally, and then everything like goes away. But they brought the police out the next day to check it out, saying, okay, we know this is crazy, but maybe it was people dressed up like animals. You know, they were actually trying to be really logical about it, right? So the police went out there with the with like the wildlife, the game people, and there were like claw marks on the truck, like there were animal tracks, things like that, shredded clothing, and so they're like, hey, we're getting the F out of here or whatever. But that all came to be because when they moved in and they were like first clearing out the land, he found like an animal den in the back that he didn't know what it was. It looked like it was for like the size of a bear or whatever, and there was nothing in it, and he went and cleared it out or whatever, and then like collapsed it. And so they were thinking it was like whatever it was pissed at them for doing that. It's a really cool episode. It's on Netflix.
Oh yeah, your stories are really interesting, and it's interesting to me because I had a lot of experiences as a teenager and young adult, and actually doing what we do now, I've actually gotten rid of a lot of the fear that I had over that stuff. And not that it's disproved any, I mean, I'm on the skeptical side, but not that it's disproven any of it, but it's made me more inquisitive, and in trying to learn, I feel like a lot of the fear is gone.
One of the things I find with it is even if we don't necessarily find like an answer or a mechanic or necessarily disprove something, what it does do is it helps you kind of like confront it and get to the point where you're like, well, it didn't hurt me, and it's not hurting me now. So even though it goes from being scary to just weird. It
is really rare to get the paranormal story where someone has been real. I mean, there's the scratching or someone got shoved, but I'm not sure if I remember a story where anyone's ever been hurt so badly that's what made the impact.
Right. We've got one client that it's a little questionable. You know, they got some things going both ways, but she's been scratched and pushed pretty hard or whatever. But in her particular case, our advice was stop fucking with it for a while, you know, and if that doesn't work...
Oh, yeah, because the more she had gone out there and interacted, the more...
Right, and even she's, you know, that's probably the worst case we have, like, physically come up against, like as far as there being, like, actual physical harm or anything. That's the worst one that we've really come up against. And our advice of, hey, just quit jacking with it for a while... Even she says, she's like, yeah, if I don't mess with it, then it just completely stops, which leans a little levity to, you know, some of it is her not intentionally, but a lot of it's caused by her either emotionally or physically or something like that. But
and that's the other thing, when I moved out of the house that I thought was haunted, and I kind of stopped paying attention to it, it really died down when I stopped interacting and trying to pick it apart, and I just started kind of ignoring it. Then the activity or whatever died down.
That's why that's always my first advice with all the people that are on the phone. They're like, what do I do to get rid of this? Stop.
Yeah, stop talking to it.
At least try that first before you go.
It's like an internet troll.
Yes, exactly. It's ghosts and demons and stuff are just internet trolls.
Who gave them keyboards?
Mm-hmm. You think demons would be so nasty without the anonymity? I mean, we can't see them, or they won't even tell you your name. Tell me your name, demon. They're like, no.
All of our hauntings are more polite than people on the internet, so...
That's true.
Yeah.
I've never biblical style demons talk to us more respectively than...
And they're better at articulation and language.
Spelling.
Yes. Demons are very articulate. Trolls are not.
I love trolling the trolls.
Oh gosh,
it's the best.
It was the one troll we had that we were messing with, that we kept bringing up the alien overlords.
Oh, Odie, conspiracy Odie.
I don't know. I like the dude. Like, he's not a bad dude. He's funny, and I'm still friends with him. But yeah, it was funny to hear the stuff he believed versus, and it seems equally ridiculous to us. Chemtrails and alien overlords seem equally ridiculous. Yeah,
but when he starts talking about crisis actors and that's where it crosses the line, where people are actually getting hurt.
It becomes harmful.
Like, yes. I'm fine. If you want to debate lizard people with me, that's fine. I don't care.
Well, I don't know. The lizard people of our government seem to have lost the plot, so it has become harmful.
If you want to talk about Bigfoot, chemtrails, some of that, but once you start getting into like 9/11 conspiracies and you start getting into the crisis actor bullshit or whatever, like I don't care what. Yeah, I don't.
Just stop belittling what happened to people.
Yeah, I know. I don't care what side of the fucking school shooting argument you're actually on. But if you're gonna sit there and say it was all faked, that pisses me off. That makes me angry. It's like, all right, if you want to argue it that this happened and it's a tragedy, but don't infringe on your rights, whatever. That's fine.
The government perpetrated it.
Yeah, that's a.
It happened.
Oh my god, yeah, I
don't know. I wonder how the ghost stories of the UK differ from ours.
Well, they don't have Bigfoot.
Okay, they don't. But I mean, besides cryptids, like the actual ghost story, like we have the Civil War soldiers, a pretty common ghost story you get, especially here in the South. So UK, I think it'd be like British soldiers.
I really like I like all the stories about the Tower of London, and there's one that used to keep me up at night. It's like one of those old ghost shows, where it's like ghost story, and it's got like 3 tales, and I can't remember the dude in it. It's just this like old guy, not the crypt keeper, but almost, the living version. And he was telling
son of crypt keeper.
Yeah, I think he was the father of crypt keeper, actually. Man, Allie's got my DVDs for it. I need to get those back. Those are the ones I want to keep. But he was talking about the Tower of London, right? And there's, I guess there's this one room like up towards the top, or I haven't been to the UK. I don't know the physiology of how the damn place is laid out. But there's one room
architecture.
Whatever. But there's this like one room you go into, right? And there's a fireplace and tapestries and stuff. It's not the dungeon part of it, right? It's where visitors would go or whatever. And
for the people that get to keep their head.
Yes. Well, crazy. Okay, funny you say that, because crazy thing is a few people have gone in there, and this is the most unique ghost thing I've heard. A floating severed head will just appear and
the opposite of what Caitlin would see when she was a kid.
Yes.
It's just a head.
Oh, maybe
It's the body.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
this.
and they're separated. But the head would appear and it would just start screaming at you.
Scare the
It's
shit
just,
out of me,
it's
dude.
just like, right? And then, but apparently it's so scary.
Is that scarier than Headless Person?
Just imagine Alfred Hitchcock's head appearing in a room that you just walked into, and it's like, go back to your room. But apparently it's so scary and so abrupt. No one has ever stayed. Like out of the 150 people it's happened to, they just go fuck and like leave. Nobody knows what the guy is saying. He could just be like, help.
I'm just ahead.
What the fuck is going on?
Carry me somewhere.
Yeah, or he's like, would you like some sausage? It could be anything, but it's just so abrupt and scary. And for some reason, that one kept me up at night. After watching it as a kid, I was like, I would hate to go in my room and like just some fat jowly head,
Or you roll over in bed and it's just in the pillow.
Yeah, because it was one of those where they do like the recreations or whatever, and they just had this like fat jowly head, like just. Now I was like, oh my god, that's horrible.
Well, I was trying to weigh out where I think the most haunted locations would be, and I would think concentration camps. Not that I think anyone should ever like ghost hunting a concentration camp. Like, you've got to be. There's so much awful crap happen there. I don't even want to take pictures.
Extra respectful. You have to be,
Yeah.
You have to be sympathetic.
Like, it was that girl on Instagram that like took a selfie in the freaking showers. Like, excuse me, bitch.
Wow.
Yeah, no one was amused with her bullshit.
I'm a little upset. I saw, just since you brought up concentration camps, I saw a article today. Zuckerberg, who I actually like most of the time as a person, right? But they're doing all the like the filter, they're getting hate speech and all that off or whatever. He's refusing to get rid of any of the speech that denies that the Holocaust happened.
It's such a fine line between freedom of speech and, because if you can't talk to these people, if you can't articulate if they can't articulate how stupid they are, then how are you supposed to fix how stupid they are?
The way he worded is, it's like it's not intentional ignorance or what, it's not hate speech because they're not blah blah. I don't know. It was disappointing. Like,
denying actual history is intentional ignorance.
I don't know. I get where he's coming from, but it was disappointing. Sort of thing.
But if you got rid of all of the hate speech on Facebook, what would we have left?
There would be no one to troll.
We'd have boring memes
You'd
that
have
weren't
severed
funny.
heads going. That's my new thing. And then next investigation we're on, it's gonna be really quiet. I'm just gonna poke my head through the curtain.
We need to do one on the satanic panic thing that happened here. He's talking about witchcraft in the UK, but the 80s satanic panic.
You live right down the street from Satanic Panic.
What are you talking?
Old Foamy.
Oh, Foamy, but the other, like, if you go into some of the deeper Cleburne horror stories, is that actually there were Satanists running the old hospital, the one that they're turning into office
walls. Yeah.
But the old hospital,
they were taking babies and they were christening them in the basement.
They were training the babies to be
Satanists. I know. I found those original stories. You know what I find funny about that?
What?
All those stories date back to just after the movie End of Days came out.
Oh, is that the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it?
Yeah, they took the babies and then they did the thing in the basement. And then they made the babies.
Simba.
They did the demon babies down in the basement.
Dude, I did that to Andrew the other day. He was laying
That's
in
gross.
bed. No, I had a bottle of water and my thumb was wet and I did the Simba thing across his forehead. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, oh, my children have never seen Lion King.
What a dude.
It's like when they came in and they were like, Mom. I was like, there is no mom. Only Zool. Who's Zool? Like, oh, I'm the worst parent ever. I'm terrible. Oh, I've been in Auschwitz. People start taking selfies in the wall. Yeah, that was, the girl had taken a picture in the shower. I forget. I'm not sure if it was Auschwitz or like Dachau, but she had just taken all these goofy. She's doing the peace finger, and I think they're thinking in England that's a rude gesture too, the peace sign. Yeah, and people had just wrecked her on Instagram. And the thing is, if she had just apologized and she'd been like, "This was inappropriate," it was rude. But no, she was like, it's my right to take selfies where, 6 million Jews died. It's none of your business. Like, no.
You're a jerk.
It's not okay.
Like, I would...
And she was American. Of course she was American.
Oh, yeah, obviously. I'd love to go and take pictures, but that's just because, I do photography, and they wouldn't be selfies.
When it was the look on her face, the smiling, the laughing, the irreverence. Yeah. It was the irreverence.
I also want to go to the Anne Frank house, which I heard that's,
You realize how small the space they lived in was?
I know. That's what I heard a lot. Oh, it's there was some stand-up comedian went on it though, but like he totally broke his comedic act or whatever to talk about it. He's like, yeah, so I read Anne Frank, and you don't really get.
Yeah, I've read it, and then I saw a picture.
And then you walk up there, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Yeah, it's horrible. And I think people forget, how recent that was in history.
Yeah, like there's still people alive with numbers tattooed on their arms.
Yeah,
it's not that long ago. We forget quickly.
We do,
especially when it doesn't directly involve us. Any more lycanthrope stuff?
No, I had the one story from Paranormal Survivor, and
well, if we were gonna play Mary F. Kill, we'd have to pick 3 werewolf characters.
Okay, so we'll come up with 3. You guys come up with 3 at home that we should Mary F. Kill.
Let's see. What are the ones you?
Teen Wolf.
You did Teen Wolf, and that's Tyler Posey plays Scott from Teen Wolf, and that's the remake. And then you could do
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox from the original Teen Wolf, but as he was then or as he is now.
Both. You have Michael J. Fox now. Michael J. Fox is Teen Wolf, and Parker J. Posey.
Tyler Posey.
Tyler Posey.
He's the one that was in that new extra shitty horror movie, Truth or Dare.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed in him.
He's like 30, and he's a 16-year-old on TV. What do you want?
So Tyler Posey.
No, you go first.
Michael Young Fox.
Michael Old Fox.
And Get Jiggy With It, Michael J. Fox.
Go. You.
Okay, I'm going to Get Jiggy With It, Michael J. Fox. Because he's battery operated.
Parkinson's is a real disorder, and it's not something to be joked about.
He jokes about it.
Ashton.
He's cool with it.
I know.
I talked to him.
Oh, yeah. You have your personal relationship with Michael J. Fox.
I'm going to bang him. I'm going to marry...
Hence the personal relationship.
I'm going to marry old Michael J. Fox. Or, no, I'm going to marry young Michael J. Fox. Because of inflation, his wealth will have increased exponentially over time. And
it was from the 80s. It definitely wasn't that long ago.
I'm gonna kill that kid because I hate that show.
Oh, I love that. It is an excellent show.
It's run by MTV.
It's over. You know what? It had a last season, and it is an excellent. And it brought us Dylan O'Brien, who is.
Do they even put music on MTV anymore? Is that a thing?
Why would they put music on MTV?
Because it's music television.
I don't understand what you mean, Brad.
Go.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Go.
I would marry now Michael J. Fox because he's fucking rich. He's an actor, and he has enough money to give money to charity, so obviously he's not swimming in the money because, he shakes a lot, but he's got a lot of money.
Well, he might wear floaties when he swims in it.
I don't know. I would have Tyler Posey, that Teen Wolf, because he's hot.
Because you like underage boys?
He's 30. He's 30 and he plays a 16. Well, he played a 20-year-old in the last season. No, he's older than I am. I Googled it. I was like, I can't find this guy attractive. So I looked it up. I was like, these people are all older than me.
But if you kill young Michael J. Fox, you can't marry old Michael J. Fox.
I'm killing his character.
No,
it's his character.
You're going back in time.
It's his Teen Wolf character. No,
I
don't believe in paradoxes.
You're screwing up the timeline.
No, he's still
and
exists.
then the remake of Teen Wolf can't even be made because you killed the original.
Money's not everything, but having enough money to eat and pay your medical bills definitely allows for a more comfortable life.
So what do we got for our next episode?
Okay, that's next Friday. We're gonna have Rose on.
That is going to be infinitely better than this episode was.
Yeah, she's far more interesting than we are. She's gonna be doing an interview and be giving out readings and advice.
Right. So she's
a witch.
Yeah, she's a professional witch. She does tarot card readings. She does spirit removals. She carves penis candles, and
she will curse your ex-boyfriend to make his wiener rot off.
Yeah, she does all kinds of crazy stuff, but she's going to be giving advice for free.
And the advice is pay me to have his penis.
Yeah, and we'll
oh yeah, you live in the UK. Sorry. Yeah.
We don't have to. Oh my God. Oh,
I live in America and I owe $1 million in medical bills.
Yeah, after the long conversation you've had the past 2 days, it's a really sore freaking subject. But I love universal health care. Okay,
I have been talking to people online for 2 days straight, and I cannot deal with it anymore. Where universal health care is bad, and I should pull myself up by my bootstraps.
And literally, you should just let nature take its course.
I was told by 2 different people to let nature take its course.
That's rough.
Nature kills people.
If you do let nature take its course, you have to give us awesome EVPs.
And if I let nature take its course, they're going to have to pay for a funeral and all that bullshit, which is even more expensive than the medical bills. But,
yeah.
Politics.
But that's a one-time fee as opposed to an ongoing fee.
I don't know. It depends on the burial cost. I'm pretty sure we're still paying off a few family members' headstones. But, normally, at the end of our podcast, my co-host here, Brad, would tell you not to trespass, but
yeah,
I refuse to do that. I think trespassing is an excellent pastime.
What's the magical place you were talking about that has the like law where you can go wherever you want? Or
that was Norway. It was free roaming laws, where as long as you don't get within a ridiculous amount of the person's property, you don't leave a mess,
you don't damage things.
Yeah, you can live off like fruits and berries that grow there, which I guess if their country still has natural fruits and berries and shit, they're probably doing better than us anyway. And you can camp wherever you want and just be reasonable. The law was be reasonable, basically.
I wouldn't even have a permanent residence there. I would just camp for a living and then have friends that I could stay at their house once in a while. It's also
a Nordic country, so you're gonna fucking freeze to death.
I wouldn't.
They're cold.
I like it.
It's cold there.
I'm a Viking.
Anything else?
Irish Viking. Right. No, just we're gonna have Rose on next week, and it'll be one of the first episodes where we're taking live callers.
Yeah.
And we'll be actually doing that over Messenger. And I'll give out instructions during the episode. Like I'll be back in that seat for that because I'm gonna be.
Thank God.
I'm gonna be running some stuff. But
y'all will probably be super happy about that.
You guys will be able to basically video or audio message us, and you'll be able to have a conversation with Rose, and she'll do free readings for you guys. If y'all want to check her out beforehand, you can find her at harvestrosewitchery.com, or just look up Harvest Rose Witchery on Facebook. Also that episode is gonna, instead of next Thursday, it's gonna be Friday, and it's gonna be a late episode, and it's probably gonna run long too, because I imagine readings are gonna take a while, things like that, and we want to give everybody a chance to get in. So that's like an all-nighter. We're just gonna stay up, hang out, talk. That might be like
more bourbon.
Definitely drinking. I think she's gonna bring some penis candles up here and some crystals. And I'm going to get her to tell the story about how she became a witch.
Oh, yeah, I like that story.
Dude, it's freaking awesome. And then that's all I got for that. Check out the GoFundMe. We'll put up a link for the GoFundMe thing if you guys want to donate. We appreciate all the donations we've got so far.
And then the book on Audible, and of course your book has the audiobook been done for that yet, or?
I have like 3 more chapters. I have to go and QC. That will be coming out soon. But I just saw that After Dark is available on Audible, on Amazon and iTunes now. And I think it's actually cheaper on Amazon than Audible. I think it's like $20 on
Audible's expensive. I told you I don't like Audible because it's expensive.
I don't see much of the benefit unless you don't get through more than one book in a month.
Yeah.
But the credit rolls over. Like if you skip a month, like you get 2 books the next month, and the book is free no matter what. You get a credit for a book.
I'm not willing to pay for things I can torrent.
Yeah, but it's more expensive than Netflix and stuff like
it is. Because I checked it out because I really like audiobooks.
Right.
Especially now that only one eye works. I can't exactly read.
We got that going on, and then we're still in the process of setting up the website for Dimension 134, stories from Dimension 134B.
And then in a few months, I'll start doing that as a podcast.
As its own, not necessarily a podcast, but
you're going to be audio drama.
Yeah, you're going to set it up as an audio drama.
Yeah.
And then you're actually in the brainstorming process of your own.
Well, yeah, Kristen and me are going to start that next week. So Kristen's one of our NTParanormal investigators, and me, her, and Allie, of course, deal with a lot of chronic illness, and we've talked about it on this show a few times. So many times that I felt like we needed to do our own
it needs to break
podcast.
off so we're not eating a whole bunch of time with that.
I'm going to do a chronic pain, chronic illness advocacy podcast, and I guess it probably won't make a lot of sense to people in the UK because a lot of it's on finances. But we're going to be...
It'd be good for them to watch, though, just because, I don't think they would believe some of
stories,
some of the crap we go through over here.
But yeah, we're going to be doing a podcast, and at first it's just going to be like a pre-recorded thing, and then we're going to try and take it to where people can talk to us on it because we do have a lot of friends, and I know a lot of people that are dealing with this stuff.
I have a good suggestion for it too, but like if you get it to the live part, you could maybe give out advice on like how to deal with certain, like when people come with like, I have this billing issue or what should I say to my insurance company sort of thing.
And the other thing was, since a lot of people are local to the area, was talking about doctors who are good at listening to those with chronic health issues.
And you and your mom know a lot of doctors. Maybe some of them would actually want to come on the show and actually talk about some of the stuff.
That would be cool. Another podcast we have coming up is the Near Death Experience, the NDE podcast.
Right. Yeah, that'll kind of tie in too. We don't have that one scheduled because we have Rose next Friday, and then the week after that we have Donald coming in. He's going to be talking about different types of photography, media production, things like that. And he got really good footage in the Marfa lights. Yeah. And then the next show after that is actually going to be our 25th episode, which is going to be our debate, our moderated
the exorcism debate.
Yeah, the moderated debate, which I have done tons of freaking research on.
I'm not doing any.
Well, y'all are making me advocate for the side of
it's a thing.
That it's plausible. So I have delved completely into those cases where like, okay, this is really good evidence. You know, these are the really weird ones that came up, and they really couldn't prove it either way. So I've been watching a lot of like legitimate exorcism videos and stuff. I'm having a hard time not like having normal dreams at night because of it.
Kristen will be our moderator, and then you and Allie are on one side, and me and Zach, and he's only ever been on one ghost hunt with us, hasn't he? He went to Kyle with us once.
He went to Kyle with us once. Not a whole lot happened, but that was the trip where we actually caught the like best EVP out there. So, but we the evidence we caught on that trip, we didn't know we caught at that time. So
it will be fun to have him on the podcast, though. It's sort of a newish character. But yeah, he's going to be on my side of the deal. So yeah, we appreciate y'all watching, and keep a lookout for the stuff we've got in the works. Y'all stay safe, and, perhaps do trespass, but don't blame us when you get arrested.
Thanks everyone for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did and you would like to know more about NT Paranormal and our research, please visit us at www.ntparanormal.com or our Facebook page at facebook.com/ntparanormal. You can also check out our book, After Dark Paranormal Investigations, True Cases of the NT Paranormal Team on Amazon.com, or find our articles in Paranormal Hauntings magazine. Before we go, we would also like to thank our supporters at Paranormal Hauntings Magazine, Paranormal Investigations Equipment, PIE, Ghost House Paranormal, the Granbury Paranormal Expo, and the Tyler Paranormal Conference. Until next time, everyone stay safe out there and stay open-minded.